Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today amid your busy schedule. And thank you very much for those who have participated in the opening ceremony now. Pacific Islands Nations Week's seminar series will start. First of all, from organizer, the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, President Dr. Atsushi Tsunami would like to say a few words. Dr. Tsunami, please. I'm the president of Sasakawa Peace Foundation. My name is Tsunami. Distinguished guests here, online viewers, invitees, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today. As introduced in the opening ceremony, Sasakawa Peace Foundation would like to commemorate the 10th Pacific Island Leaders Meeting, PALM 10, being held in Tokyo, and is hosting the Pacific Island Nations Weeks, a 2-week event starting today. In recent years, Pacific Island nations have faced increasing geopolitical competition and threats to their national survival due to climate change. On the other hand, each country faces various challenges, including the economy, disaster, waste, education, and insurance premiums, and health issues as well. Under these circumstances, the Pacific Island nations and their people are working hard to pass on their natural environment, resources, and culture to the next generation as custodians and protectors of the Blue Pacific continent. I myself have visited Palau and Fiji so far, and since last year in Samoa and Tonga, I have identified various local issues out there. This seminar series will cover a variety of topics including regional cooperation, security, judicial diplomacy, sustainable tourism, waste management, and disaster response media. The major goal is to hear directly from more than 30 ministers and practitioners invited from Pacific Island countries and learn about what's actually happening on the ground in each country. So we would like to think how we should tackle those issues. We also believe it's important to build connections between the people of Japan and the Pacific Island countries for future generations. We hope to use this seminar series as a foundation to promote more effective practice in solving local issues and deepen the multi-layered relationship between Japan and the Pacific Island countries. We look forward to working with you. Thank you very much.
Dr. Tsunami, thank you very much. Would you please return to your seat? We are very pleased to begin session 1 today in regional cooperation. We are honored to invite Ms. Suzanne Vares-Lum, President of East-West Center, as keynote speaker. The organization Ms. Vares-Lum represents also has the headquarters of the PIDP, Pacific Island Development Program, supporting the Pacific, the leaders, the Islands Conference of Leaders, which started by the United States government in 2022. You have the floor.
Ohayo gozaimasu. Good morning and aloha mai kako, as we say in Hawaii, a warm greeting to each and every one of you. Your Excellencies, honorable leaders, and distinguished leaders and guests from the Pacific Islands nations, Japan, the United States, Australia, global partners. Thank you, Dr. Yohei Sasakawa, our honorary chair, for his wonderful remarks, as well as for our Sasakawa Foundation President, Dr. Atsushi Tsunami, as well as Dr. Hidetoshi Sakaguchi for hosting this significant event and inviting me to address the many distinguished leaders here and kicking off this wonderful event. I come with aloha from the shores of Hawaii to you and your families and your nations. And I come with humble respect for the land and the people, culture and language where we gather here in Tokyo, Japan, as well as my wholehearted respect to you and the people and the lands that you represent here today. I know that the journey was long, sort of like mine. You know, it comes at a perfect time this week and next week because the Pacific Islands Nation Week is timely following the 13th Festival of the Pacific Arts and Culture held in Honolulu, Hawaii from June 6th to the 16th. This is the world's largest gathering of Indigenous Pacific Islanders with over 20 nations represented in Hawaii and was supported by the state of Hawaii's Governor Josh Green and First Lady Jamie Kanani Green, in partnership with the Pacific Community, or SBC, and many, many, many partners. And the theme was Ho'olu Lahui, which means regenerating Oceania by amplifying the voices of the Pacific Islands through culture, art, music, dance, philosophy, discussing important issues like health, wellness, cultural and community resilience, economic development, and education. And I had the opportunity to speak on one of the panels that was hosted by the governor and the First Lady. And this panel, I learned something rather than me just explaining. I learned something. I learned that in Chamorro, for those of you who've been to Guam, there is actually no word for art. Did you know that? I didn't know that. There's no word. Because in Chamorro, like many Pacific Islands, we are art. Art is used for communicating indigenous wisdom. It's used for communicating core values. It's used for communicating customs we teach our children through art, music, and dance. The wisdom I heard and learned that day was from none other than Dr. Mary Therese Hattori, our director of the Pacific Islands Development Program, who couldn't be here today, so I'm happy to be here in her stead. You know, for the Pacific, art communicates the bond to land, water, and to each other. It empowers us to live a sense of belonging. Culture is essential. It is not absent. It's not disconnected. It's essential to building community resilience in the Pacific. And while I can't capture all the inspiring thoughts, I just have a few pictures here that I learned over the 10 days of this wonderful festival. I can say that I'm reminded how much can be done in partnership and unity with one another. One of the festival's key objectives is to promote that cultural exchange and understanding among the participating nations. Like this Pacific Islands Week, sponsored by the Sasakawa Foundation, promoting understanding and partnership has been at the core of the East-West Center. Indeed, since 1960, when the US Congress established the East-West Center, the United States Dwight D. Eisenhower signed the authorization that the mission of the East-West Center was to promote better relations and understanding among people and nations of the United States, Asia, and the Pacific through cooperative study, training, and research. You know, in my first year in 2022 as the president, along with the Board of Governors, alumni, and staff of the East-West Center, we developed a strategic plan to address the mounting impacts of the changing environment, challenges to good governance, and our special place in the Pacific. And I do want to note that I'm proud to say that the Republic of the Marshall Islands President Hilda Heine, who was serving as the East-West Center Board of Governor at the time and is also alumna from the East-West Center, she got her master's degree, helped us to reframe the strategy that meets the needs of tomorrow and has been a powerful voice for the Pacific, not just in Hawaii, but in Washington, D.C. So if you would allow me to just share our strategy, because I think we might find some synergies in those partnerships of our strategy. There are 5 pillars to our strategy. And the first one, as you can see there, is to develop and equip leaders. Our goal is to build an influential, active network of current and emerging Indo-Pacific leaders who are innovative, culturally and technically competent, and collaboratively address issues of common concern. Indeed, since 1960, East-West Center has seen almost 60 alumni become heads of states or leaders in their countries. And 16 of those 60 are actually from the Pacific Islands. It's astounding, with almost 300 plus international diplomats from around the region. And just naming a few, of course, Her Excellency Hilda Heine, her picture right there, and Sir Ratu Kamisese Mara, who really was a founding father of the Pacific Islands Forum. And younger leaders like the previous Prime Minister of New Zealand, Chris Hipkins, as well as the Honorable Pikinibu Paenu'u, Prime Minister of Tuvalu. And we have Tuvalu here represented today as well. So how do we do this at the East-West Center? I'm just sharing that, through our long-term programs that some of you know because we had some people staying in our halls here in the audience. We do this in partnership with the University of Hawaii, where students can get their master's or PhD and live in this international community environment. Currently, there are students from 44 nations that are living in our IMPE design dorms on this 21-acre Manoa campus in Hawaii. Pacific Island students can apply to a variety of scholarships. And that includes also, since we're in Japan, Japanese scholars, because many of the early 1960s and 70s scholars did come from Japan, who became leaders in Japan as well. Graduate degree fellowships that are congressionally funded. We have Asian Development Bank, Japan Scholarship Program, Project Governance, sponsored by the USAID, U.S. South Pacific Scholarship Program, funded by the U.S. State Department, the Asian Development Bank Research for Oceania Pipeline Fellowship, ADB funded. So there are many, many programs because of partners. And we also develop and equip leaders through our short-term programs, from weeks to months, depending on the program, like our Asia Pacific Leadership Program, which former Nauru Ambassador to the UN, Margot Day, was in our first class, as well as the Japan Foundation, the most recent new program, funded by the Japan Foundation, is the Indo-Pacific Leadership Lab, and they just returned from Fiji. So here's a few pictures of that class. But you can see they're not just Pacific Islanders. It's an opportunity for Pacific Islanders to meet everyone from the Indo-Pacific to expand their network. We also have Changing Faces Women's Leadership Seminars, supported by the Japan Women's Leadership Initiative. Jefferson Fellowship Program, which are among 9 programs for journalism. Special Professional Fellows Program and our Young Economic Empowerment Leaders for the Pacific Islands, funded by the State Department. Young Professionals Program in Washington, D.C., as well as our research, funded by the U.S. Congress. The Pacific Islands Development Program, Pacific Islands Leadership Program, funded by Taiwan, as well as the Resilient Pacific Island Leadership Program. And I could go on. We've heard many, many stories of our alumni who go on to do amazing things like President Hilda Heine, not because of the center, but because of the many, many partners, donors, and organizations who are here and online who want to invest in educational journeys of our young Pacific leaders. And I know we have many ministers and leaders in education who are here. Our second pillar is to convene impactful dialogues. And you can see that picture on the top is an old 1960s convening of the Pacific Island Conference or earlier Pacific leaders. Our goal is to be this trusted, respectful convener, much like the Sasakawa Foundation, that fosters this multi-sectoral, multilateral dialogues to deepen mutual understanding and advance regional cooperation and creative collaborative solutions. And one of the most significant in 2022, when I became president, was the first Pacific Island Conference of Leaders held in Honolulu since 2016. And this Pacific Island Conference of Leaders is unique because it includes not just Pacific Island nations, but also the cousins, which is Hawaii, Guam, CNMI, American Samoa. This is our ancestral homeland in Oceania, so it is wonderful to be together. Our third pillar that, again, our Board of Governors reinforced is to partner with the Pacific Islands. Our goal is, along with the United States and Asia partnerships, to nurture an active hub of Pacific Island expertise in the areas of arts and culture, economics, civil society, government, environment, and sustainability, and to be a platform to amplify the Pacific Island voices. And since the establishment of this strategy, I'm proud to say that the East-West Center has increased programs by 300% in personnel and the number of participants with the help of the many partnerships of the U.S. Congress, U.S. State Department, Department of Interior, Office of Insular Affairs, the Center for Pacific Island Studies at the University of Hawaii, the Pacific Islands Forum, crop agencies, Hawaii and Guam Green Growth, and many other institutions like the Japan Foundation and the Sasakawa Foundation. Central to our work is the Pacific Islands Development Program, as you heard earlier. PIDP, as we call it, serves as a critical, multifaceted role in supporting the East-West Center's commitment to the Pacific Islands. It works to support Pacific Island leaders to advance their collective efforts to achieve and sustain equitable social and economic development. You know, it really serves two roles regionally. First, PIDP is a founding member of the Council of Regional Organizations of the Pacific, or the CROP. And as a CROP agency, PIDP works closely with 8 other CROPs across the region to support technical support, strengthen regionalism, education, environment, arts, and culture, and more. And it really works rigorously with its fellow CROP agency. PIDP serves, again, a pivotal role as a secretariat for the Council Pacific Islands Conference of Leaders. And as the secretariat, it draws together 20 member countries and territories of the Pacific to engage in dialogue, establish regional priorities, and inform the work of PIDP. And it's not meant to take the place of the PIF, but to fill in those areas that would make sense. The current chair is the president, Samina of FSM, who is taking on that role from the previous chair of the Pacific Island Conference of Leaders. Really, the broad spectrum of services and development initiatives of PIDP, whether at the regional policy level or the community engagement level, ensure that our prioritization of the Pacific is not just talk. PIDP's positioning as the only crop agency, really is the only crop agency in the United States, as well as the only crop in the Northern Pacific. It proves promising in establishing East-West Center as one of the bridges between the United States and Pacific Islands, and between the northern and southern hemispheres of the region, as well as other partners in the region. You know, we are committed to being a crop member, as well as supporting the 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent and its implementation plan. Whether it's political leadership, regionalism, security strategy, evaluation and monitoring, or it is participating in the Pacific Small Islands Developing States and their engagement with the UN, the PIDP as a crop member is there for you. You know, dating back to 2013, the Pacific Islands Leadership Program with Taiwan and the Resilient Pacific Island Leadership Program have brought together professionals from all over the Pacific and brought them to Taiwan and the United States. And it's through these programs that we have a very robust Pacific alumni network that have gained those skills and experiences that have lent to their ability to earn leadership positions across Oceania in a wide variety of sectors. We have alumni today who are chiefs of staffs to presidents, elected officials, researchers, educators, elected leaders, heads of nonprofits and non-governmental organizations, entrepreneurs, journalists, legal professionals, and leaders across grassroots and civil society organizations. Our fourth pillar is to foster environmental solution. You know, we want to be that regional hub of environmental and collaborative action, especially today in the Pacific, generating just community-based solutions that improve ecosystem health, adaptation to climate change, and foster human resilience. And you can find a lot of these resources. This is a picture taken from our webpage. You know, our research team and partners and programs focus on finding solutions to environmental challenges facing the region. And our final pillar, which is not the least, because I would say this is probably the most important, is supporting good governance. We want to be a cooperative international network of public servants and civil society leaders empowered to foster transparent, effective, and inclusive institutions, peaceful dispute resolutions, and secure economies and respect for human rights. Some of our signature goals include enhancing the capacity of independent media. East-West Center has been conducting journalism programs since 1967. And we've been holding our international media conferences in the region for years. And a few weeks ago, I just returned from our signature international media conference in Manila with panels on climate change and the Pacific. We welcomed over 300 journalists representing 35 nations, and many of them are alumni of the East-West Center. I want to point out one media outlet led by the Pacific Islands Development Program, and Mr. Keone Williams, who's here today. If you could just raise your hand. Where are you? Oh, he's right here filming me. So he actually leads, with roots from the Pacific. The Pacific Islands Development Program's Pacific Islands Report remained dormant for many, many years. And yet it was seen as a way to elevate the voices of the Pacific by the Pacific. And we are so proud that it has now been resurrected again. And we invite you, of course, to join us and put your voice into this platform. Many high-level leaders from around the world and the United States, whether it's the White House or Congress or State Department, are subscribers to this, and it's a way to get your voice heard. And for our current chairman, former governor of the state of Hawaii, John Waihee, who is the first Native Hawaiian governor of any United States state, shared in an interview I recently did with him on the Pacific Islands Report. He said, it's really the Pacific Islands Report represents a kind of exchange of trust because you're trusting us with the voice. The report is comprised of individual articles from a variety of sources, but collectively it paints a picture together, if we can all join in, of the Pacific Islands. And he said, the Pacific Islands Report is a tangible symbol of a relationship, one that is rooted in history and one that's a connection through our ocean. Another governance initiative is the Project Governance, which is a partnership with East-West Center, USAID, SPC CARE, and the International Foundation for Electoral Systems to advance Pacific good governance through support to national and local governments, community organizations, independent media, youth organizations, which was launched in 2021. And we also have scholarships through this program that funds one-year master's degree in law, finance, and information systems to up to 10 participants. Also, a key aspect of good governance, and we're going to have a panel on women, peace, and security, but women. Women make up 50% of every society, no matter what country. So we are proud that we have women's entrepreneurship programs, mentorship programs that bring women to the table through our Changing Faces and Gals with Lay. We continue to look for partnerships to grow this area within the East-West Center. So I've spoken long enough, and I appreciate your patience. I want to thank you all for your precious time and attention and allowing me to share what we say in Hawaii is kuleana. Kuleana is your responsibility. We all have a responsibility or kuleana to the Pacific, the largest ocean. We have kuleana to support education and leadership development, and we all have kuleana to establish dialogue for all of our Pacific cousins with all the partners in Asia, the United States, and around the world. And at East-West Center and the Pacific Islands Development Program, along with partnership with the Sasakawa Foundation and many of you here, we hope that you'll see us together as a resource for the Pacific and an advocate for the voice for the Pacific and a bridge to understanding across the blue Pacific continent. And we look forward to opportunities to continue to partner. We are always seeking ways to leverage partnerships with like-minded organizations who desire to make the Pacific and the region more peaceful and prosperous for all. So please do visit us on our website, eastwestcenter.org, and we're on all social media platforms to find out more about our programs, events, and publications. Arigato gozaimasu, mahalo nui loa, and a heartfelt thank you to all of you. Mahalo.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you. Thank you very much. President Vares-Lum, please stay on the stage. Please stay on the stage. Thank you. And I would like to invite our Dr. Tsunami, President, Sasaka Peace Foundation. And this is going to be the collaboration with development partners. Dr. Tsunami, please take the floor. Well, the Japanese audience are in this room, so I would like to speak in Japanese on this occasion. East, West, Center, thank you very much for your participation today. And you introduce us special programs that your center offer. And I'm sure you're pretty much, let's say, enabling, so to speak, of various aspects with Pacific Island partners. Yes, we do value them very much, especially in the context of US-Japan collaboration. I think the US-Japan collaboration is at its best ever since it was struck in the past. So US-Japan partnership is at its height, and I think we should take advantage of such an environment with the partnership of Pacific Island nations. And I would like to invite your comment in that context. Please.
Thank you so much for that, and I appreciate the kind, warm welcome. You're exactly right. You know, in our Congress, East-West Center in our Washington, D.C. just launched 2 years ago the Japan Matters for America and America Matters for Japan. Prior to that, it was the Pacific Matters for America and America Matters for the Pacific. And now we're doing this together. It talks a lot about economic trade, investment, job creation, sister cities, education, healthcare, security issues. There are a lot of challenges, and Oceania is vast. People think, oh, the Pacific. They think small island nations, but I say big ocean nations with huge, massive resources, huge areas, maritime exclusive economic zones to monitor that are really very challenging unless we do this together. And Japan has really come to the table, and I think the partnership and opportunities where the alliance, you hear it, whether it's in DC or around the country, even in Northern Virginia, they just did a launch of Japan Matters there. So this partnership and capacity that Japan has to help together to make a change and difference for the people of the Pacific who really have been absorbing a lot of the challenges of climate, have provided so much talent and innovation and are teaching us about the indigenous wisdom that we have forgotten around the world and bringing us back to that knowledge that we have forgotten on how to steward land and the ocean and the limited resources that we all have.
Well, thank you. And the audience here in this room for this program, let me explain this. East-West Center and Sasaka Peace Foundation, we do have, let's say, foundation element in Washington, D.C. And this particular organ has a lasting relationship with the U.S. counterpart. And our collaborating relationship is translated to the other Pacific organizations in a similar context, and especially for the Pacific Island nations. U.S.-Japan relationship has a lot of facets, and we would like to see a complementary collaboration in that context. And from our point of view, Hawaii, in terms of distance, it's mid-range amongst the vast Pacific Islander nations. So Hawaii is, let's say, convenient contact point of our relationship. Ever since I headed the Sasaka Peace Foundation as a president, I studied a lot. I went to Hawaii University and, of course, visited the East-West Center for lectures to attend. So knowledge base is in Hawaii. I felt that when I visited your institution. And also the English-based research is quite convenient for the global communication, indeed, language-wise, because in Japan, most of our original research is in Japanese, which has to be translated into English. But the East-West Center's original document is in English, so you have advantage, I would say.
Well, thank you for that. You know, Hawaii is, some people would say, the most isolated place on the planet. But I would say it's actually a bridge for Oceania, Asia, and the continental United States and the rest of the world. And because we are also a melting pot, if those of you who've been to Hawaii, you might feel very comfortable, everyone in this audience right here, as I look around, no matter where you come from. Because it is like what we like to say, like beef stew. Beef stew, you can still taste the potato and the carrot and the beef, and it's bound together by this wonderful gravy that we have to put with rice and potato salad, because you have to have a lot of starch. But it's bound together by these set of values of freedom and openness and wanting to connect. And Hawaii has that special place. It has the histories of everyone in here. Every immigrant family, ancestors, and we are bound to the Pacific by those who came from Polynesia and made that journey hundreds of years ago, learning from Maupi'ailug from Yap and Sadawal, who taught the Polynesians again how to wayfind, how to use the stars, the sea, and the ocean to navigate this traditional knowledge that was lost, and a sense of pride and culture in what they learned. And I think Hawaii still has that. And it has, you know, I think of myself too. My father is from Maui, he's native Hawaiian. He came here, was stationed in Japan in 1960. And then he went to Guam, was part of the Army Map Service, and would go to the Micronesian Islands, Marshall Islands, and Palau, and would map it out in 1961 to 1962, send that data back to Japan. And in Japan, they would collate that data and do the accurate mapping of the maps of the Pacific Island, and that's in the 60s. So we have this long relationship of our ancestors and those before, of being connected. And I think Hawaii has that special gift to be able to do that.
So
the traditional knowledge is quite a value indeed. In our foundation, sustainable tourism is another project we have in this context, but the island people's issue or challenge, perhaps waste problem, trash problem, this is common to the rest of the world. But not only that, the islanders living has to have a specific solution there. And the traditional knowledge of yours is quite important. And thinking about the partnership, I would say that Bishop in Hawaii, have you been there? If you haven't, you should. It's indeed diverse culture and civilization elements are there. Indeed, it's a big Pacific family, and diversity of the culture and diversity of languages. And how in between the languages of islands related and associated and so on. So anthropological or ethnic study in linguistics have been done before we face the modern or contemporary issues, I would say that was Bishop is quite unique. That is the largest in U.S. center, I would say, of the kind.
We just, at the end of the Festival of the Pacific, had at the Bishop Museum the Celebrate Micronesia, where we had over 3,000 people because we had those coming from Micronesia, Marshall Islands, Palau. We also had Kiribati represented there and Nauru. And the dances were not just dance and entertainment. Somebody asked me in Hawaii, why didn't we know more about Festival of the Pacific? Why didn't we go to Celebrate Micronesia for the tourists? And I said, because it's not for the tourists. It's for us. It's for us to relay that traditional knowledge to one another. And it was a way to celebrate what is taught through the dance, whether it is how you fish, how you take care, how you, how you're disciplined, how you work together as a community. It's all taught. But Bishop Museum has been a place that shares that. And then it also shows in what happens over time when other cultures have come in, when Hawaii became a place where we welcomed many Japanese immigrants, Chinese immigrants, immigrants from the Philippines, all over other Pacific islands, and how it became they say melting pot, like I'd rather have beef stew, because we don't melt. Melting means you melt away, and we don't. We synergize and we bring the beauty of each one together, and that's different than a melting pot. So Bishop Museum shows that we can each celebrate one another. And our arts, we have an arts program also. I didn't talk about it at the East-West Center, but we had the storyboards of Palau. So President Whips brought his huge storyboard, and we had hundreds of storyboards, right, in our center. And then after that was the history of kabuki in Hawaii. It showed kabuki from the 1800s when it was the Kingdom of Hawaii, when immigrants came, and how they preserved the culture of kabuki, and in English. So the whole theater is performed like you would see in Japan, but what's coming out of their mouth is English. It's fascinating. And then now it is on kalo, the importance of kalo or taro for Pacific Islands, but also for all of Asia. So it's that kind of celebration through arts. And Bishop Museum does that as well. And I've got to mention one more thing. Bishop Museum has been wonderful and leading the way in repatriating things that belong back to Pacific Islands. They just did a return of laddie stones that were found on the property to Guam. It was a really moving ceremony. They cleaned it up, and then they had a ceremony. The lieutenant governor from Guam came, as well as many Chamorro who touched the laddie stones of their ancestors, and it's going to be sent back home, which is something that Senator Schatz has been calling U.S. museums to return things that belong to their home place back home.
いややっぱり我々もこの財団の中で
In our foundation as well, that in Japan also, I think we should learn more about Japanese history and Pacific Island nations history and connection. And we had the South Sea office in the past, and so we had a very deep connection between Japan and South Sea nations, Pacific Island nations, but we are starting to forget all those things. In that sense, in Japan, we should have a center of excellence, including research center. Otherwise, we will those history will get lost. So Hawaii University, East West centers. We have to cooperate with those wonderful organizations, universities, and so on, so that we have even a deeper relationship, partnership with Pacific Island nations, like the ones we had our ancestors built so carefully. So we have to have more learning opportunities. Now, do you have a partnership with Japanese university or research centers, or not really yet?
Usually it's based on projects, and some of our Washington, D.C. office, and by the way, thank you that we occupied the Sasakawa building on L Street for many years. We've moved down the street, so thank you very much. But many different partnerships on different programs, whether it's study, research. We have a variety of research who have. Not long-term ones, like a memorandum of understanding. I just, during FESPAC, signed a memorandum of understanding with the University of South Pacific. And it's something that the University of Hawaii just did. So President Lasner at the University of Hawaii brought together leaders of higher ed institutions in the Pacific and had a meeting at the University of Hawaii. We certainly want to look at ways that we can broaden that partnership besides just short-term, projects. That may be an ongoing relationship. I think that would be a great way to go. But I think this University of South Pacific is a great step, but also here, maybe more long-term rather than episodic on various programs. But we have many of our different researchers on different programs.
そういうパートナーシップを
Yes, that kind of partnership, foundation, as well as next generation education institutions, universities, hopefully will do with Hawaii, University of Hawaii and East-West Center. And Japanese students are there in Hawaii, University of Hawaii, studying there. But in order to study more about the island, we should send more students to Hawaii. The foundation ourselves will think how we could do that so that the next generation can, get our buttons.
Much. That's a great plan, and we're excited to look for ways to partner.
ハワイからは
From Hawaii, are there airplanes connecting islands from Hawaii and Palau, Guam? Well, when we go to Palau, we have to go via Guam, but from Hawaii, you must have direct flights to different islands, right?
This was a really great discussion that was brought up in the Micronesian Islands Forum, is the challenge of travel in the Pacific. So a good issue that you brought up. I think it affects all of the Pacific, are the limitations and the, for options, so the high price of travel. So even for us to go to Palau, we have to go to Guam first. And, to go to any of the other Marshalls, Micronesia, we go to Guam. Fiji, even when I came back from Fiji, I had to go to LA and then come. They do have direct flights, but it's hard. You have to get it on the right day. Or in Samoa or Tonga, you've got to get it on the right, certainly certain days of the week. And then, breaking the monopoly on who gets to fly those flights, I think that is something that, advocating legislation, even within the United States, on even North Pacific flights, whether it's United that is the only sole flyer. Could Nauru, can Japan Airlines open up? Those have been discussions that were brought up previously at different forums. And I think that's something that we have to continue to talk about and advocate for, because it's very difficult to get direct flights.
この我々の
During this week, Pacific Island Nation Weeks, Japan Airlines will come over, so we can advocate for the flight, for the direct flight, because there's no direct flight, well, very few direct flights, so I want JAL to re-establish direct flights. And we would like to discuss that. And the Deputy Ambassador of Australia this morning said to Palau, they want Palau-Brisbane direct flight. Well, they did open that route, so we have to sort of copy the way they did. We can't just rely on Japan Airlines or other airlines. Government should get involved to establish the direct flight route. I think that's what we have to do in these days. US, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, we have to cooperate each other so that flights will start operation here and there. I think this is a time to think about it, and that's a part of our partnership, I think.
Hawaiian Airlines just started direct to Cook Islands, Tahiti, so they have direct flights in order to try to enable some economic commerce and tourism sharing, maybe people going one location, another, other cruises and things like that. So that has opened up. Hawaiian Airlines is another that's looking at expanding. We'll see what happens as they get absorbed by Alaska Airlines. So.
そうですね。
That's right. Is time running out? Time is up, or really? Okay. In that sense, Japan and the United States can cooperate for the future of the island. There are many things that we can cooperate on. And in Palm 10, climate change and economic development will be discussed, and those will be a big themes, I think. But now, at East, we heard various pillars of East, about pillars of East-West Center and strategies and plans. But what would be the most urgent issues or programs that you are thinking of?
What I've heard, whether it is moderating the dialogue with the House and the Senate of the U.S. Congress for 3 years in a row, sponsored by Australia and New Zealand, we brought the Pacific UN heads of mission to hear and speak to. And what I heard are, really the low-hanging fruit, right, is the access to healthcare, economic development, infrastructure, the undersea cables that enable the high-speed connectivity that can, transportation was a big one that we talked about. The cost of transportation, whether it's shipping and air, ways in which that we can work together. I think East-West Center, Sasakawa, we can be a voice in looking at programs, whether it's studies, whether it's increasing the number of programs that go to the decision makers in Japan and the United States so that they understand what the challenges are. We were written into the White House initiative on the Pacific Partnership. It says, institutions like the East-West Center committing money to the Pacific. But how do you access this money? Japan and the United States can commit money, but how do you access it? Where does it go? What is the specific legislation that has to go through? How do we monitor? How do we measure? Do we have a common operating picture when all of us, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, the United States, China, many other countries coming into the Pacific offering, but what is the overlay and who does what? And how do we make sure that there's not redundancies, we don't overwhelm, or we're not doing something that's methodical? I think about Palau in the maritime security world where, the coastal surveillance system for maritime security, Australia provides the patrol boats, 30 years of maintenance. The United States provides the coastal surveillance, Office of Naval Research, the coastal surveillance radar. Japan provides maybe some training in the operations center. So it's coordinated. So if everyone just goes in and coordinated with the invitation of the Pacific Island leaders, with the hearing, not just bringing things to the Pacific that are not being asked for or invited into. And I think that's where we have to be aware and always cognizant that we are guests and we are here to help because rising tides lift all boats. So if the Pacific does well, we all do well. And that's how we have to see our investments, is that we all will thrive when all of humanity thrives.
もう時間もあれなんですけど、我々もう一つ
Well, time is pressing already, but yes, the women, gender issue, women's empowerment, yes, that is very important the area that our foundation has been working on. And today we cover WPS. And now the Japanese foreign minister is a woman, Yoko Kamikawa. And toward Palm 10, while she was preparing, there was a ministerial meeting. And Minister Kamikawa actually visited the Pacific Island nations and discussed the importance of the women's advancement. And of course, we will cover this. But in Samoa, well, the minister and the prime minister and the foreign minister is the women. So the only other counterparts that was the woman. But because of the poor flight connection, well, that was difficult, but she was able to talk with her. So women's empowerment, the advancement of women's position will also be essential subject matter that we cover whenever we discuss with the Pacific Island nations partners.
To the discussion. Thank you for this special discussion.
ありがとうございました。バレスラム総長、そしてスナミリ。
Thank you very much, Ms. Vares-Lum and Dr. Tsunami. Thank you very much for very interesting discussions, giving us the interesting insights. Would you please come back to get back to your seats?
これにて
This concludes the morning session, security and regional cooperation. In the afternoon, we will discuss non-traditional security and WPS starting at 1:30. So if you go out of this room, there is the refreshments and light lunch. And there is also the island the stations on the ground floor. So please stay with us until we for the afternoon session as well. This concludes the morning session. Thank you.
皆様引き続きご参加いただきましてどうもありがとうございます。これより非伝統的安全保障 WPS セッションを始めます。まずはじめに笹川平和財団海洋政策研究所島諸国地域部部長でございます塩沢より趣旨説明をしていただきます。塩沢部長、よろしくお願いいたします。
皆さんこんにちは、塩沢です。
Good afternoon, my name is Shiozawa. WPF's Women, Peace, Security. Generally speaking, you may think of conflicts, disputes, and peace building and so on. In Pacific context, Papua New Guinea Solomon may fit to this substrate, but not the other island nations. However, the major threat or the greatest threat in the Pacific region is the climate change. I invite experts on the subject matters and WPS in Pacific region. That is the general theme of this particular context. Thank you, Dr. Shiozawa. Panelists, please have one of those interpretation system receivers. And you are now listening to English. You're now listening to English. Testing, testing. This is the English channel. Testing, testing. This is the English channel. Testing, testing. Do you hear? Thank you. Well, then, we would like to continue on. From Tuvalu, We are going to have a presentation from Tilou, Kofe, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Tuvalu, on climate security.
Hello, everyone. Talofa from Tuvalu. I am Tilou Kofe. I am with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Labor and Trade of Tuvalu. Today, I will be presenting on climate security and how it poses a real threat to the Tuvalu and as well our Pacific Island nations. Okay. Well, as we all know from the Boy Declaration on Regional Security, climate change remains the single greatest threat to the livelihood, security, and well-being of the peoples of the Pacific. Okay, how can we define climate security? Climate security refers to security threats that climate change poses at the international, national, and individual level. Climate-related security concerns include impacts on food and water supply, increased competition for natural resources, and loss of livelihoods, migration, and displacement as defined by NAOC. And climate security also refers to the direct and indirect impacts of climate crisis on peace and security, where climate change acts as a threat multiplier, according to the IOM, and it also amplifies existing risk in society that endangers the security of humans, ecosystems, and societies. It represents the physical, economic, or societal impacts associated with climate change that substantially alter political stability, human security, or national security infrastructure. Just to introduce my island country, Tuvalu, especially to our Japanese audience or anyone that might not know Tuvalu. Okay, Tuvalu is in the Pacific Islands, is one of the Pacific Islands, and it has an area of 26 square kilometers. And it consists of 9 atolls, coral atolls, and 103 islets. It is much the same with Shinagawa ward. Shinagawa-ku to hobo onaji desu. Sorry. And its EEZ exclusive economic zone is 750,000 square kilometers, which is 900,000 square nautical miles. Population of Tuvalu is approximately 11,000, and the 60% of the population resides in Funafuti, which is the capital. We speak Tuvaluan and English. As we all know, climate change, environmental security, especially sea level rise, affecting Tuvalu and as well as the Pacific Island nations. In Tuvalu, the highest point is just a few meters above sea level, and the highest is 4.6 meters, which is 15 feet, making it extremely vulnerable to rising sea levels. This threatens to submerge the islands, leading to loss of habitable land due to coastal erosion, loss of land, creating land disputes between kaitasi or families and shared lands. And according to a report from Land Survey in Tuvalu, the current landmass have deteriorated from 26 square kilometers to 25.14 square kilometers as a result of sea level rise and coastal erosion. And we do experience extreme weather events, increased frequency, intensity of cyclones, storms, and flooding pose significant threats to the infrastructure, housing, and freshwater supplies. So basically, climate security all lead to all these other issues, which includes environmental security and especially food and water security, due to the high salinity of the land as a result of sea level rise. We cannot grow much crops, and the recurring low rainfall also, because in Tuvalu we basically rely on rainfall. And when rain doesn't fall that much, it really is a main issue in Tuvalu because you cannot survive without water. So definitely food and water security impacts as a result of climate change really impacts livelihoods of the people in Tuvalu. And it also poses, oh, sorry. Okay. Extreme weather events, as I mentioned before, as a result of effects of El Nino and La Nina. And we do have king tides and inundation, and we have been experiencing also a couple of cyclones back through the years. We had Tropical Cyclone Pam in 2015 and Tropical Cyclone Tino in 2020, which led to the state of emergency declared by Tuvalu. And these real extreme weather events threatens the livelihoods of the people of Tuvalu. And climate security also, sorry, oh, economy. Also impacts the economic security, which includes the agriculture and fisheries and in which climate change affects the productivity of local agriculture and fisheries, which are critical for food security and livelihoods. As I mentioned, saltwater intrusion and changes in marine ecosystem can devastate crops and fish populations. And it also affects tourism, because as tourism is a source of income, tourism is jeopardized by climate impacts that degrade the natural beauty and infrastructure of the islands. And also, climate security also connects to the social security, which is the displacement and migration, the rising sea levels and environmental degradation may force inhabitants to migrate, leading to social displacement and potential loss of cultural heritage. And it also poses health risk. Increased temperatures and changing weather patterns can lead to health issues such as the spread of vector-borne diseases, example dengue fever, and other waterborne diseases due to compromised water quality. And also infrastructure and energy security. There's a need for infrastructure resilience. Enhancing the resilience of infrastructure to withstand the climate impact is really crucial. This includes buildings, roads, and critical facilities such as hospitals and schools. And also the renewable energy, transitioning to renewable energy sources can help reduce dependence on imported fossil fuels and enhance energy security while mitigating climate change. As land is lost to the sea, Tuvalu faces challenges to its sovereignty and territorial claims. This could lead to geopolitical disputes and changes in international law. And the loss of physical land means the loss of international voting rights and also a loss of voice of Tuvalu. through these climate change impacts, we have to shift our paradigms, and there is a Future Now project, which is Atayaone in Tuvalu, that was established. It is a digital transformation to retain Tuvalu statehood and identity, to function as a state regardless of physical land loss. And you can find the first digital nation at the website www.tuvalu.tv. This is a permanent digital replica of Tuvalu. It recreates Tuvalu land, archive, history and culture, and with the hopes of shifting governmental functions into digital space. Back in May, a couple of months ago, Tuvalu and Australia signed an explanatory memorandum, Falepili Union. Falepili basically defined as good neighborliness, care, and mutual respect. The goals of this union include building climate resilience, safeguarding collective peace and regional security, and supporting human mobility. It is an agreement between sovereign nations to a more advanced, integrated, and comprehensive partnership. And ahead of entry into force, Australia and Tuvalu are undertaking parliamentary scrutiny and public consultation. While explanatory memorandum are not legally binding, this document will inform respective consultations ahead of entry into force of the Australia-Tuvalu-Falepili Union Treaty. I would also like to share that we also have the National Climate Change Policy for year 2021 to 2030, which is in Tuvalu, and is Te Waka o Whenua Tuvalu. It was established in 2015 to finance initiatives to adapt, recover, and rehabilitate from climate change and disaster impacts. It also has a Tuvalu Climate Change and Disaster Survival Fund, which is to finance initiatives to adapt and recover from climate change and disasters impact. One assessment that I would like to share is the Tuvalu's Climate Security Risk Assessment. It was facilitated by the UNDP, United Nations Development Program, and International Organization of Migration under the UN Peacebuilding Fund Climate Security in the Pacific Project. It has the Tuvalu Climate Security Risk Assessment Profile. And in this report, there are 5 pathways, climate security pathways, that I would like to share. From Chapter 3, Pathway 1, it's land insecurity weakens resilience and exacerbates water, food, and health insecurity, undermining Tuvaluan human security. Pathway 2, climate change challenges the blue economy and threatens livelihoods. Pathway 3, climate-induced mobility poses opportunities and challenges. For the Pathway 4, disasters undermine Tuvaluan resilience and changes the government's coping capacity. For Pathway 5, climate change undermines Tuvalu's habitability and threatens regional cohesion. So from this report, the entry points and suggested actions that I would like to share target vulnerable communities and make sure no one is left behind. Entry point 2, improve knowledge capacities and communication to inform action. Entry point 3, avoid maladaptation and mitigation through climate and conflict sensitive approaches, and promote and work with local knowledge and approaches to build and shore up resilience. And the last entry point, 5, improve land, water, and food security. So in overall, climate issues affect all, and especially women, peace, and security. It is the plight of the Pacific Island nations, and there is a need for more adaptive capacities and resilience measures, including community and government initiatives, and strengthening local and national capacity to adapt to climate change through education, planning, and sustainable practices is essential for long-term resilience. And as well, international assistance, strengthened development partnership is vital, securing financial and technical assistance from international partners to implement adaptation and mitigation projects is vital for Tuvalu's climate security. Consequently, we always need to rebuild, and therefore fostering rebuild from impacts of climate change and the climate issues that it poses. And therefore fostering healthy partnerships and synergies are vital to ensure the fight against climate change and the climate security issues it poses. Faf Tailasi.
Thank you very much. I came to understand that in Tuvalu, which is at a low altitude, the impacts of climate change are a real security threat that threatens the very existence of the country. Now we'd like to start panel discussion. WPS, the definition of WPS in the Pacific Island nations. Let me introduce panelists from the right, from us. Ms. Suzanne P. Vares-Lum, President of East West Center. She gave us a wonderful lecture earlier. Then, from Papua New Guinea, we have Ms. Imelda Ambelier, Lecturer and Program Coordinator of University of Technology in PNG. And from Tuvalu, Ms. Tilou Kofe, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Tuvalu, who just spoke. And moderator, the Nippon Foundation Senior Officer of International Operation Department, Dr. Akiko Horiba. Dr. Horiba, please. Thank you very much. The lecture of Tuvalu was about climate change, and I was wondering how it's related to WPS. Maybe in Japan, WPS meant women's protection and women participation in the environment of a conflict. And we may wonder why it's related to climate change, but WPS means women, peace, and security, everything about those. So in many ways, I hope we can listen to what they have to say, the Pacific Islands have to say, and then think more about WPS. First of all, from Papua New Guinea, Ms. Imelda Ambelier, can you talk about the current situation? And then Ms. Suzanne will talk about the overall WPS in the entire region of Pacific Island countries. But first, Ms. Imelda Ambelier, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be in the panel and talk to you about women, peace, and security issues in the Pacific, and specifically in Papua New Guinea. I am going to talk specifically with an experience and context from PNG, especially. So it's more contextual in nature to address women, peace, and security. I won't say much about Papua New Guinea because you can Google it and find out more about PNG. It's actually the biggest country in the Pacific with the biggest population as well, 8 million plus population, and it's growing at an alarming rate. There is so much diversity in Papua New Guinea. When I say diversity, it's in terms of language, culture, geography, and many other areas as well. Now, talking about women, peace, and security, in Papua New Guinea, development is very important to us, and many partners, including Japan and foundations like these and other countries of the world, contribute so much to the development and prosperity of Papua New Guinea as we speak. The foundation to having such outcomes in the country, I believe, is having a very strong connection and a relationship that is established in the lives of the people and the communities that we have in our country. Papua New Guinea is such a nation where women are the main workers and implementers of so many activities in the country, but are oftentimes overlooked because of many reasons. One of the reasons is the cultural aspect that we have, where men take the center stage and are usually regarded as the main ones who make the decisions. So in this talk this afternoon, I want to talk about how women can contribute to, or what they do in the communities, especially in the rural areas. We have a population, 80+% of our people live in the rural. Now, when I talk about rural, it's very different from the context of you people. Our rural, you're looking at people who live in small communities where some places there's no road like this, there's no light like this, there's no water, clean, proper water. So the bulk of the population live in these communities, and represented in these communities are women. And they are the ones who really work so hard to address, when we talk about sustainable development and maintaining, considering sustainable development and climate change, most of these people live, livelihoods are subsistences. So this is naturally taken care of in the livelihoods where people live in, okay? So I really want to bring out here to this stage here and the space that we're addressing, that women play very much important role in addressing these issues, but are overlooked because they can't be represented in the decision-making, in the mainstream, in the government, as well as in the communities. Their voices are not usually heard. So that is a challenge that I can say is something that must be considered in today's dialogues and activities that are going on, to see that the traditional way of looking at women, peace, and security issues must now at least change towards looking at contextually about what's happening in those communities there. That will bring good representation and informed decisions in considering what it is that needs to be done when we look at bigger issues about climate change, about other issues that are really affecting everyone at all front. So Papua New Guinea and many other Pacific Island countries, I can say, have a lot of issues that are going on in terms of security, human rights issues. At the moment, you would hear or you've heard about sorcery related issues. They are mostly, it can be researched, but my personal opinion, and being a Papua New Guinean, living in those communities and coming into the urban areas and teaching about these things, I can confidently say that 80% of the reason why we have people who are being abused is because of the inequality that is there. When I'm talking about inequality, people in the villages, like what I said earlier on, miss out more on this economic benefits that the 20% or so enjoy in the urban. And in the suburban, where the settlements are, they are also the ones that are underrepresented or miss out on these benefits. So this inequality, the spatial inequality, the economic inequality, disparity that is there, these are the contributing factors to law and order issues in our country. That's what I'm trying to say. That is the main factor that is contributing. When people see that they don't have an education, they don't enjoy the money and the car that someone else has, it's desperation time now. So they cause problems. And so these issues arise naturally. It's not because they want to, but it's a societal systemic issue that is creeping right at the moment that needs to be addressed. And it affects women's securities and issues, safe stability, and obviously development objectives and goals that we want to achieve, because this is definitely the root of it. So I'll go back to what I said, 80% of the people living in the villages and rural are usually not represented. And so socioeconomic problems like socially related, that is a very big problem that we're talking about. People literally go and abuse and physically torture women especially. Women especially. Women are the majority who are affected by that because maybe they can't speak up. They are the easy praise. Society is structured generally like that. But the good news is it's not all doom and gloom. There are projects, there are programs, there are organizations, community-led groups, and it is usually the village group women as well, and the women organizations, Christian organizations or NGOs that are taking the lead in addressing these kind of issues that are happening. This, I think, a new kind of security issues that's confronting the society where I come from. I'm specifically speaking for Papua New Guinea. Maybe other countries can identify with me on that. But to sum it, I would say it's about inequality. Spatial inequality is the root thing, and all that we see outside on the streets, in the communities everywhere, are the symptoms of this very big structural issue that is confronting our country as well as others. So government and everyone concerned, like I work in an institution, government institution at the university, so we try our best to educate people to see that there has to be, I teach students who are working who have to go out into the development project areas like mining industries. Okay, our students, they are intermediates, they CA workers out there, so they need to understand the culture and the community of which people are working in these rural areas. We don't like to have situations like Panguna or Tedi that used to be where certain people decided for the people and their voices were not heard. And those people's voices who were not heard, most of them were children and women in particular. And when the war, for example, or the civil war that arose in Papua New Guinea, the Oktedi mine, the vast majority, the people that suffered so much were the women and the children, and they were displaced, etc. So I think that's something that needs to be looked at, is at the community level and at the grassroots level to understand peace, security, and law issues in Papua New Guinea.
Thank you.
I'm just speaking off my head, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. ありがとうございます。本当にこの意思決定のレベルにですね、女性がなかなか
Thank you very much. There are many areas in the world, including Japan, where the women doesn't have access to decision-making processes, even though women oftentimes are very aware of the community situations. Can we address this? How women's voices can be better reflected in the decision-making processes with a certain mechanism for WPS. That's a very important the issue. Well, I'd like to next invite Suzanne for more regional perspective, the necessity for WPS, what WPS is all about. So, Suzanne, please.
Thank you, Akiko-san. Appreciate it. And thank you to my sister from Tuvalu and Papua New Guinea for sharing your insights. First I want to say that I cannot speak on the entire Oceania and Pacific Island nations, because each one, while we are connected by a beautiful Pacific Ocean, each one is so unique. Each culture unique, and each place and people. But I do want to say that women, peace, and security issue is really a human issue of all of humanity, not just Pacific Islands, but all of us together. And that when we talk about impact of the stories we've heard on climate change or sorcery or people inequalities that exist in Papua New Guinea, we hear of vulnerable communities, but I love what both of our panelists have said, is that we're not just victims, but victors. That when all voices are put on the table to find solutions that we heard to solve the challenges that exist, because what we do know is that no matter what country you are from, you have about 50% men, 50% women, give or take a few points. And that there are gender roles based on each of our countries that are assigned by culture and religion. And the fact remains, though, that we all have mothers, grandmothers, daughters, nieces, nieces, cousins, women in our lives who have influenced us in one way or the other. Women, Peace, and Security was established, as Akiko-san said, in UN Security Council Resolution 1325 really came out of this idea that civilians, particularly women and children, account for the vast majority of those adversely affected by armed conflict, including as refugees and internally displaced persons. But in the Pacific, yes, indeed, we do have instability and crisis going on right now in some of our islands and some of our locations around the world and communities. But the most significant crisis that we heard from Tuvalu and around the Pacific as an example is the crisis of climate change impacts, as you just saw this wonderful presentation. And she mentioned that it impacts communities, food, water, health security, forced migration, economies, education, and the overall stability and prosperity of the Pacific Islands. But women's involvement in the Pacific Island nations' challenges ensure that we tap into 50% of all peoples and the solutions. Can you imagine? I often tell people, if we played a game of tug of war, and I said only this half of the room you can use only 50%, and this half of the room you can use everybody. Well, those nations that decide to use everybody as the talent pool, guess who's gonna win? So that's why it's no secret that if you look at the index of economic development, those societies and where women have equal access to healthcare, education, protection from gender-based violence, a movement towards equal seat at the table, those countries prosper not just economically, but in stability and security. And I don't need to be a scientist to look at that on the bottom level. If you list out all countries in the world worldwide, those that sit at the bottom, look at the way in which 50% of their population or humanity is treated. I mean, that's the only scientific evidence that you need right there. And you look at the top 10, and look at in terms of gender equity and actually tapping into that pool of talent. When we know that throughout history, even within the United States, when we needed to use the entire talent pool, that's exactly what the country did. And they tapped into women's talent. But let's not wait until we get to that point. That if we really want secure, sustainable economies and societies within the Pacific, we should do so. Now, some people will say cultural norms, our culture prevents it. But many of our traditional Pacific Island nations' cultures of our ancestors existed under a matrilineal society. And when I went to Palau, and I know we have our sister from Palau, the national security advisor back there, I met with the Bilung. And the Bilung are women who they don't have the formal power as being elected, but in each of the provinces, there are women who represent, and that has been since Palauans have been there, correct? And they have a sort of decision-making power that is non-traditional ways in which we would see in a Western way. And in order to understand that, that really changes it. And some might see that as well, that's not a democracy, but really it's the combination and the connection between understanding culture and what does a democracy look like within the context of that culture. I think it's very powerful because just as you had mentioned about how cultural norms, indicate the kind of behavior, and I think we have to understand those complexities to realize that kind of change. Really, the inclusion of these diverse perspectives will help and contribute to a more comprehensive and innovative approaches to climate change. What's happening? When I look at the Tongan volcanic eruption and earthquake, I think about why is it that, when you look at the casualty rate, it was very small. When you look at the tight-knit community, that means auntie who might live alone, everybody knew it. So they all took care, or in Hawaii we say malama, they took care of everyone. Men, women, children, vulnerable populations. A tight-knit community where women are part of actually a lot of the process of preparation and understanding that tight-knit community, so ensured that they were evacuated in time, and there was a very low casualty rate. Horrific event, but compared to if that happened somewhere else, where those communities and where women are not involved in that, might have been different. It's sad to say. So, women, peace, and security is not just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. And really, those countries, again, in which women have equal access to all of these things that were discussed in the climate discussion, those employment opportunities that you mentioned, those countries thrive. And I just say that again, those countries are most stable. And the solution lies in men and women together. It cannot just be women's voices on this table that speak. I hope another panel will be men speaking on behalf of humanity. Humanity means both men and women. Hawaii, as I mentioned, people say is the most isolated place on the planet, right? But I imagine, thousands of years, our ancestors migrated across the Pacific to inhabit the islands in a double-hull canoe, men and women both working together to make a new life in a new place, so far away, using the stars and the sea, to build a community, to plant, to farm, and to take care of building generational happiness and peace and security for generations. And it took both. You see images of men on va'a or vaka, they're on the canoe, but it's actually, you can't populate a society if you didn't have auntie and grandma on that canoe too, who made that amazing voyage across the Pacific. That's the strength of humanity, men and women. Mahalo nui.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Well, I think that talk of Suzanne has they captured the essence of WPS. The time is until 2:15, so we have perhaps time just for one or two questions. Are there any questions from the floor?
はい、それでは後ろの方一人。
Yes, please.
The wonderful presentations, but I wanted to ask, in your own cultures, how would you suggest to bring women more into the discussions that impact climate security and peace and security? Thank you.
ありがとうございます。それではツバルとパプアニューギニアのケースという。
So Tuvalu and Papua New Guinea cases you would like to listen to. Papua New Guinea, Imelda-san, can you please explain how women can be invited into the discussion?
So I believe women can play an important role if they're invited into the discussion through many ways, but already there are social organizations, groups, institutions, formal as well as non-formal and informal institutions that are there. The thing that works more for Papua New Guinea, I would say, is going back to the local communities and get to the groups that people belong. Everybody belongs to a community, ethnic group, society. They recognize, they know each other. Use their language, what they are familiar. They already know how to do gardening, fishing. It's already a sustainable way of living. So you need to use what they know of and connect it to what we want them to know about in terms of the big problems that we are facing. So already there are groups there, that's what I'm saying. First thing is going back to the community. Use those groups that are there, ethnicity, as well as religious groups, because Papua New Guinea is very much a Christian country, and you go through a church, established church, they will listen. That's where most of the mothers, women, men, everyone goes and finds their place. They identify the religious leader that they listen to. So you can go through those systems that are already there. And of course, we can't ignore the formal system, the schools, right from the elementary, right up to the universities. This must be incorporated into the curriculum and advocate in many different ways, using social media as well. Thank you.
ありがとうございます。それでは
Thank you very much. What about Tuvalu? Thank you.
It's pretty much the same with Papua New Guinea and as well as other Pacific countries. We have a lot of women communities. It's not like we have like a men's community for something. It's always women community from the island of which islands, and then there are also religious existing groups. And I think from through there, it can be, advocated, bring up,
ありがとうございます。やっぱり宗教コミュニティ
Thank you very much. Religious communities seems to be very important in your countries. Thank you very much.
WPS 日本では
Well, in Japan, there is a national action plans regarding WPS, the third national plan on WPS in Japan. And disaster preparedness and the disaster mitigation has been one of the major focus in promoting WS. What does it mean? For example, January the 1st this year, there was a major earthquake and the tsunami hit Noto area in Japan. And many people took shelter and the women's perspectives that were necessary in managing and running the temporary shelters for peace and the security of everyday lives of the people hit by a disaster. So particularly in Japan, the prone to natural disasters, the disaster preparedness and disaster risk reduction was a major focus on a national plan for WPS. And for today, we learned that the climate security and the environment security and the food security are all closely connected. So WPS is not only the protection of women and vulnerable people in the situation of arms conflict, or as Suzanne said, it's a humanity issue for humanity. WPS covers all security, peace and security issues, and not only women's perspective. But as was said by the panelists, the issue is how to address the various problems. We need to have innovative approaches that requires diversity. In order to ensure diversity, we need to listen to voices of women which have been stifled or didn't receive attention so far. Well, in fact, the WPS next year will have a 25th anniversary of the WPS agenda. So once again, it's a good time for us to take a stock and what we have achieved, and in order to go further further ahead. As the Foreign Minister Kamikawa promotes, we need to do more for WPS. Well, the time was quite limited today, but we learned the various the challenges faced by the Pacific Island nations and their close linkages to WPS, as well as how we could and should work together to find solutions to these the very important challenges. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. De Holiba, Suzanne, Tilou, and the Imelda. Thank you very much indeed for your valuable contributions. Would you please take back your seat in the floor?
セッション3に入ってまいりますが、ちょっとステージ上の準備を行います。そのままでしばらくお待ちくださいませ。
Before starting the session 3, we have to rearrange the stage, so please wait for a minute. Thank you.
それでは続きましてセッション
Now we'd like to start session 3, which is about maritime security and law enforcement in the EEZs. Panel discussions will take place when your name is called. The panelists, please come up to the stage. From Marshall Islands, Honorable Wisely Zackhras, Minister of Justice, Immigration and Labor. From Micronesia, Mr. Leonildo Bacalando Jr., Acting Secretary, Department of Justice, Federated States of Micronesia. From Palau, Ms. Jennifer Anson, National Security Coordinator. Please come up to the stage.
そしてこのセッションはですね
The moderator of this session is Mr. Hideyuki Shiozawa, Director, Division of Island Nations of PRI, Ocean Policy Research Institute of Sasakawa Peace Foundation.
よろしいでしょうか。それではここから
Now, moderator Mr. Shiozawa, please.
まずこのミクロネシア
First of all, 3 Micronesia countries, Palau, Marshall, and Micronesia. I would like to share some historical background in this particular region with the audience. Let me start about 100 years ago. How was the geopolitical situation in this country from the beginning of the 20th century until the breakout of the World War I? It has been a German territory. And then the Versailles system changed, and the north and the south of equator and the northern part of the equator has been occupied by Japan, including Taiwan, and the south, the rest. And from World War I till 1960, you can see how the United States gained the control. And then afterwards, nations have become independent, starting from south to the Marshalls, Micronesia, and Palau as a free association state. And non-autonomous region still remains. Now we have 14 independent nations. Simply put, this is the multiple layers of this particular region in a political framework. The first layer, traditional security frame. And you can see freely associated states with US and UK and PIF, that's regional framework. And in addition to that, Pacific Island nations led PCs framework. So that the small island nations initiatives in the region. In addition to that, we have some sub-regional approaches, not only the north, but also in the Micronesian MIF and the MSG for the Melanesia and the Polynesian PLG. U.S. Free Association, Palau, Micronesia, and Marshalls. It is called the Relationship Compact. Security will be borne by U.S., but for law enforcement, it's up to the individual nations. And of course, as a sovereign country, it is a matter of course. And the participating countries, EEZ, control, that is mainly the topic of law enforcement. Now, I would like to invite the speakers. Honorable Zackhras, please.
Distinguished guests, friends, I bring you greetings from Excellency Hilda Sihaini and the people of the Marshall Islands. I wish to extend my most sincere appreciation to Dr. Yohei Sasakawa, Chairman of the Foundation and Sasakawa Peace Foundation, for this unique opportunity to meet with distinguished delegates from neighboring national and regional countries. The Marshall Islands consist of 29 atolls and 5 islands in the Central Pacific, spread over a sea area exceeding 750,000 square miles, one of the largest exclusive economic zones in the Pacific region. It should be noted, however, that the total land area of all the atolls and islands is 70 square miles. The distance from Majuro, the capital, to Honolulu to the east is 2,136 miles, and to Tokyo to the northwest is 2,300 miles. We are very fortunate to have a unique, robust commercial shipping activity and a relatively sizable international fishing vessel presence. In recent years, Majuro became the largest transshipment port in the region. With this development, however, illegal actors and activities take place. Issues such as illegal, unregulated, unreported fishing, IUU, illegal immigrants, contraband smuggling, and environmental degradation occur. There are a number of official government entities that form the maritime security framework of the Republic of the Marshall Islands. Each operates under its specific act and has special functions that relate to national maritime security. Some of their functions overlap, but where they do, the interagency cooperation is well established. The Maritime Security Group is composed of the national as well as local police, Port Authority, Marshall Island Marine Authority, Environment Protection Authority, EPA, and Office of the Attorney General. The Maritime Security Group covers all group in illegal immigration, contraband goods, smuggling, and drug trafficking presented by shipping. The MIMRA focuses on the activities, movement of the fishing vessels, with the EPA looking into shipping activities that damage or degrade the environment, namely the marine environment. In these regards, it should be noted that through the Compact of Free Association between the US and RMI governments, the United States is given complete authority and responsibility for defense and security matters with the RMI. In accordance with the compact, RMI was one of the first countries to sign a ship rider agreement with the United States on August 2004, providing more surveillance by authorizing the US Coast Guard with RMI police on board. To board and inspect and vessel within the exclusive economic zone, the Marshall Islands maritime security and law enforcement landscape is constantly evolving. By addressing the existing challenges and fostering strong partnerships, the Marshall Islands can ensure the safety and security of its vast maritime domain. With its limited resources, the RMI has been fortunate to have development partners such as Nippon Foundation and Sasakawa Peace Foundation. Political will is also present, and the RMI must remain committed to maritime security. Is it very crucial for protecting our natural resources, ensuring economic prosperity, and safeguarding our national security. Moderator.
Zackhras 大臣、ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Minister Zackhras, what was particularly important in that speech was that the security and defense was covered by the U.S. Under the Free Compact Association, but the shipwright agreement was concluded where the law enforcement was directly involved. So I'd like to invite the Leonito Baccarat Jr. from the Micronesia, the Federated.
Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, good afternoon. My utmost respect to everybody. At the outset, allow me to please convey our heartfelt appreciation to the government of Japan, especially to the Ministry of Justice and the people of Japan for kindly hosting this Palm 10 related event here in Tokyo. Special words of appreciation as well to the Sasakawa Peace Foundation through its president, Dr. Atsushi Tsunami, for the excellent logistical support and arrangements starting from my delegation's arrival in Tokyo yesterday. It is always a pleasure to visit Japan on this occasion, and I'm very honored to speak on behalf of the Federated States of Micronesia regarding law enforcement and maritime security issues within the exclusive economic zone. Micronesia boasts one of the largest EEZ in the Pacific, spanning 2 time zones, 607 islands, and encompassing 1 million square miles of ocean, an EEZ area that can fit the entire archipelago of Japan, I was told, from Hokkaido to Kyushu. We are increasingly confronted with the presence of commercial fishing vessels in our maritime zone. While Micronesia enjoys a reputation for peace and stability, we also face significant challenges, including illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, marine pollution, and broader issues related to law enforcement and maritime security. A primary challenge for Micronesia in terms of maritime security is on how to effectively monitor, secure, and surveil our vast EEZ, given the sparsity and remoteness of our islands, and in light of the limited maritime surveillance assets of the country. To address this issue, we require more reliable and capable patrol boats equipped with modern law enforcement technology. The visibility of law enforcement patrol boats undoubtedly acts as a deterrent against IUU fishing and other illegal activities in our zone. Moreover, we benefit from joint sea patrol operations with the support of our partners, just like Australia and the United States. And I wish to underscore also the partnership with the Foreign Fisheries Agency and its member countries, the U.S. Coast Guard, and our partnership through the Niue Treaty Subsidiary Agreement. These partnerships are among the examples of regional law enforcement cooperation that have proven successful to a significant degree, and they are practical and also invaluable. Recently, we conducted a successful joint patrol operation to assist Kiribati in enforcing maritime law within its waters. This operation not only achieved its objectives, but also fostered invaluable cooperation and understanding among neighboring maritime nations in the area of maritime security. Additionally, we also provided crucial logistical support to the Republic of Marshall Islands during the Micronesian Games recently. These instances highlight our ongoing commitment to regional cooperation and solidarity, demonstrating the benefits of collaborative efforts in enhancing maritime safety and stability across our shared Pacific region. Many of our remote islands are experiencing erosion exacerbated by rising sea levels, and you heard colleagues just today. And they pose significant threat to the ecosystems, communities, and infrastructures located in those islands. And I tell you, many of those islands are quite remote. Currently, Micronesia is under a state of emergency declared by President Vares-Lum, owing to the prolonged drought conditions that have depleted rain catchments and river systems in our country. This has severely affected our inhabitants, especially inhabitants on the outer islands, who rely on these systems, leading to acute water scarcity and significant hardships. Colleagues, Excellencies, we utilize international law in order to protect our maritime zones by establishing and finalizing our maritime boundary treaties and by depositing our maritime boundaries with the United Nations. Furthermore, we collaborate with our neighboring countries to develop regional practices that ensure the long-term security of our maritime zones, even in the face of sea level rise due to climate change. In December of last year, President Vares-Lum issued a national regulation with the force and effect of a national law that permanently fixes the maritime zones of the Federated States of Micronesia. This regulation, based on international law and the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, and in accordance with domestic law concerning national territories, reaffirms Micronesia's sovereign and jurisdictional entitlement as a state party to the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. And this regulation will be deposited with the United Nations soon. Our ongoing efforts to secure our EEZ align with Micronesia's overarching objective of safeguarding our national jurisdiction, preserving our maritime zones, and securing for the future generations the rich natural resources of the country, including the living resources, oil and gas, and minerals. As a region, we face a diverse array of challenges, including transnational crimes such as drug and human trafficking, cybersecurity, vulnerabilities, and other maritime security threats. Fortunately, we are not alone. We greatly value the partnerships and collaborative efforts we have established with our neighbors and partners in the region, particularly Japan. And regarding our efforts to address these challenges, we are focused on enhancing our surveillance and monitoring capabilities with invaluable support from Australia and Japan through their provision of sea assets for maritime surveillance. Additionally, we are also investing in capacity building by training our law enforcement officers. Our strategic partner, the United States, provided our key personnel with valuable training opportunities in the area of maritime surveillance, law enforcement, and security. Furthermore, we also strengthen international cooperation by collaborating with neighboring countries, regional organizations, and international partners to share information, coordinate patrols, and collectively address common maritime security threats such as IUU fishing that I mentioned, marine pollution, and trafficking. We are keenly interested in advanced technologies such as artificial intelligence to enhance efficiency and effectiveness in our efforts, though much work remains to be done. Enhancing our ability to swiftly respond to maritime accidents, natural disasters, and conducting search and rescue operations within the EEZ is crucial for protecting lives and properties. I wish to acknowledge the valuable efforts of Ambassador Kagumiya, Japan's ambassador to Micronesia, for his proactive approach in nurturing our bilateral relationship. We also extend our appreciation to Dr. Akihiko Tanaka, President of JICA, for his recent visit to the FSM, and to the Japan Coast Guard for dispatching the mobile cooperation team earlier this year. We look forward to further cooperation and partnership in the near future. Indeed, the partnerships between our two nations and among the Pacific family have proven strong and robust, further exemplifying the cooperative efforts we can undertake to address maritime security and law enforcement. Thank you for your attention.
バカランド省長官代行ありがとうございました。先ほどの、話の中で、中心ではないかもしれないですが、一つあったのは、地域として太平洋島しょ国は地域として2021年にデクラレーション Preserving Maritime Zone in the Face of Climate Change Related Sea Level Rise という宣言を出しています。それは将来的に気候変動によって海面が上昇して現在ある EEZ の元となっている基線のポイントが海底に水面下にあったとしても現在の状況で国連に帰宅していればそれは維持されるというそういう宣言です。でミクロネシア連邦の場合はそれをすでに帰宅しているということなので気候変動があろうがEEZ は維持されるというそういう立場です。で日本もこれを支持しています。あとは今年1月などその MCT の派遣など協力させていただきそれを快く受け入れていただきありがとうございました。はい、続いて、パラオの国家安全保障調整官、ジェニファー・ハンソンさんにパラオについてお話しいただきます。
Honorable Jennifer Anson, National Security Coordinator, would give the presentation.
Good afternoon, konnichiwa. Today I will be speaking about law enforcement in our EEZ, particularly maritime security. So on this first slide, you can see several pictures, and I put these pictures together just to sort of summarize what our national interests are for regional stability within Palau. Recently, the first picture, I wanted to talk a little bit about cybersecurity. Recently, we have had several cyber attacks. We had a major cyber attack in March of this year, which affected our Ministry of Finance, and it affected our Treasury and their ability to process government employee paychecks. We also had a more recent cyber attack last week, which attacked our immigration system at our airport. We are currently, we recently upgraded our immigration system in our airport to use biometrics, and we migrated from our old system to the new system, but we still had our old system online, and our old system was attacked, and all that data was encrypted. And we are still investigating that cyber attack up until today. The next picture you'll see, those are Vietnamese blue boats. And that picture is from 2015, when we captured 4 Vietnamese blue boats that had been illegally fishing in Palau's waters. And we decided to send a picture to the world to say, we're not going to put up with your behavior within our waters. And since that incident where we publicized this, put it out, you can still watch the video on YouTube. Since that day that we put that out, we have not had a single Vietnamese blue boat encroaching in our waters. Then the next picture is a Chinese research vessel, the Haiyang Diji Lihao. We have had several Chinese research vessel incursions into our EEZ. This particular vessel came into the EEZ and was loitering over our fiber optic cable for a few days. And this was last year, May 28 of last year. And prior to that, in December, end of November, December 2021, we had another Chinese research vessel, the Dayang Hao, which also came into the EEZ and was loitering over our fiber optic cable. For these 2 incidents, we sent a démarche to the Chinese embassy in the FSM, and we told them that we were not happy with this kind of behavior, because if research vessels want to come and conduct research, they need to get our permission first. And these 2 research vessels did not get our permission. They came in, and the response from the embassy was that they were not doing anything malicious. They were simply avoiding a storm. And that was the last that we heard back from them. There have been other Chinese research vessels encroaching into our EEZ and without permission, and because we don't have the capability to respond, these research vessels are like 200 feet long, and our little tiny patrol boats do not want to go out and approach them, because our law enforcement, our marine law officers do not want to be in that situation. Back to the picture on the left side, the map of Palau. That is our exclusive economic zone, about 600,000 square kilometers. The area shaded in green, that is the domestic fishing zone. So that area, in 2020, we passed our marine PNMS Palau National Marine Sanctuary Act, closing 80% of our EEZ to commercial fishing and leaving 20% for domestic fishing. So that green area is where our domestic fishing zone is. The other 80% is closed to all types of commercial fishing. And then in the middle, you can see some pictures of fish, tuna fish, some sharks. Before we established the PNMS, the National Marine Sanctuary, we were suffering with a lot of IUU fishing incidents. But it appears that after the closure of 80%, where we no longer have those commercial fishers in those waters to monitor, now we only have 20% that we monitor, it seems like incidents of IUU fishing have reduced in the past 4 years. And then the last picture on the right side, that's our fiber optic cable. We have one fiber optic cable. We are looking into getting a second fiber optic cable. And as one of the Palau's critical infrastructure sectors, we need to find ways to protect those critical infrastructure sectors from incidents such as the research vessels coming in and loitering. We don't know what they are doing over our fiber optic cables. So that's just, in a nutshell, some examples of what we are dealing with in terms of national security in Palau. So who is responsible for maritime security in Palau? Our Division of Maritime Security and Fish and Wildlife Protection under our Bureau of Public Safety within the Ministry of Justice is responsible for monitoring and surveillance of our EEZ. We have a marine law center that was recently renovated and a new building built by the Nippon Foundation. And then we recently established a joint operations center within our marine law enforcement building. It is not a 24-hour operations center yet due to the lack of manpower, but that is the goal, to have enough officers to be able to have 24-hour operations. We also have a newly renovated wharf that was constructed by Australia. Within our Marine Law Joint Operations Center, we have several programs that we use to monitor our EEZ, including Sea Vision, VMS through the FFA Regional Surveillance Program, Starboard Maritime Intelligence, which is a program through New Zealand. Hawkeye 360 is a pilot program through the United States Department of Defense. We have a coastal surveillance system, which is 5 coastal radars installed by the U.S. As well. And we also have access to IORIS, the Indo-Pacific Regional Information Sharing Platform, and looking into Sea Vision Watch to Chat platform. So those are just some of the programs that we use in our Joint Operations Center to monitor our EEZ. In terms of aerial surveillance, we had a Sea Dragon program with the United States Department of Defense. However, that contract ended last December. We are looking to get another contract to get another Cessna to provide aerial surveillance for our maritime law enforcement, but that will not be until probably the end of this year or next year. So currently we are without aerial surveillance support unless it is through one of the FFA operations, such as Kurukuru or Island Chief, where Australia provides aerial support for those operations. We do have smaller drones, Puma drones, but we don't use those too often. So aerial surveillance at this time is what we are lacking. For our Patrol boats, we do have 2 large patrol boats. One is the Guardian class patrol boat gifted by Australia. The other is a patrol boat gifted by the Nippon Foundation. And then we have 3 smaller near coastal patrol boats also gifted by Nippon Foundation, and then 2 ribs gifted by Taiwan. And those are our assets that we use to monitor our expansive 600,000 square kilometer exclusive economic zone. Some numbers for the PSS HI Rumlik 2, which is a Guardian class patrol boat, back in 2022, total number of sea days 57. In 2023, 29. These are not good numbers. Our president has mandated 100 sea days for each vessel, and based on this year's totals, I don't think we're going to reach that mandate on either vessel. So far for this year, we've had 25 sea days on the Guardian class patrol boat, and then the other patrol boat, about the same numbers this year, only 18 sea days so far. Search and rescue, those are our numbers since 2021. You can see that we use our patrol boats for our search and rescue efforts. Without those patrol boats, I don't know how we would be able to be successful in our search and rescue cases. So these are just some numbers from cooperation with our partners, with the US Coast Guard, Japan Fisheries, Taiwan Coast Guard, Japan Coast Guard. We recently had the Japan Coast Guard vessel in Palau, the Kojima, conducting an exercise with our maritime law enforcement about 2 weeks ago. So these are just some of the trainings that are offered to our law enforcement, our maritime law enforcement officers from Australia, Japan, the US, throughout the year. So what are challenges for our maritime law enforcement, for maritime security in Palau? Of course, IUU fishing is still a big challenge within our PNMS, as well as in the high seas pockets, because vessels would be fishing in the high seas pockets, whether it's legal or illegal, but they would transit through Palau's EEZ or come back into Palau and continue their IUU activities. And I mentioned the Chinese research vessels that have been encroaching within our EEZ. Of particular concern is when they are hovering over our fiber optic cable. Deployment of Chinese buoys from these Chinese research vessels, as well as other fishing vessels, is also a challenge because we have no way to see those without going out to investigate every single vessel out there that's transiting or within or fishing within our waters. And then just other challenges that we are facing, which I'm sure our neighbors are facing the same challenges with coordination, interagency coordination, information sharing, interoperability. I think that's across the board that we all face those same challenges. I think that also our low sea days is probably a result of our law enforcement officers not being motivated to go out on patrols, going out for 5 days or 2 weeks. You know, unless you really love being out on the water, I don't know anyone who'd want to be out on a patrol boat for that long. And maybe our low cases, our low prosecution rate, we don't really see any fines. We don't really see, I guess, I guess it's motivation. What would motivate our officers to want to go out every month to go and patrol? Maybe CPay or higher salaries, getting a cut of any fines that are issued. It's something that we have to look at, because our numbers right now of patrolling are very sad. And even though the president mandated 100 sea days for each vessel, you can see that we haven't reached that within the last 3 years, and we won't reach it this year. So those are our challenges. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
はい、ジェニファーさんありがとうございました。
Thank you, Jennifer-san. I have several questions. Can you hear? I have several questions to you.
その日数の
About the sea days, you said the low sea days, and you attributed the motivation or the fuel cost. Which is the case? Which is a cause of low sea days, less sea days?
It's not fuel price, because the fuel is paid for. Usually, so for our Nippon Foundation gifted assets, the fuel is paid for all those assets. For the Guardian-class patrol boat, Australia pays for the fuel. So it's not fuel prices. So that's why I said maybe it's salary is too low, or they don't receive CPay, or there's no motivation because there haven't been a lot of prosecutions which have resulted in fines.
すみません、この点に関して。
About this particular issue, Dr. Vakatanto, what about Micronesia? What about Micronesia? Any motivations of law enforcement officers?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Obviously, you touch upon quite a complex subject matter. It's a combination of many things. We have, in the case of Micronesia, we have a kind of a benchmark as to how many sea days we aim for every year operation. We have 2 Guardian-class patrol boats, 1 smaller boat provided to us by SPF and the Nippon Foundation, and hopefully we'll have more boats. But I said it's a combination of things, because with respect to pay, of course, one way to encourage our maritime officers would be to give them some reward. We do that in terms of giving sea-based differential. So every day they spend at sea, there's a certain percentage set by law and regulation, because they don't follow the 8-hour per day work. But there's also that issue about the availability of patrol boats, because there's like a competition. The patrol boats could also be used for emergency purposes. We have some medivacs, search and rescue operations that are very urgent. We're talking about human lives. So we deploy them. So every time we deploy patrol boats, they couldn't be used, obviously, for sea patrol operations. So it's a matter of prioritizing those things. Fuel is also important in terms of operation because you need fuel to support your, sailing order. But we try to address that by having a revolving fund that will be used to support fuel, spare parts for the patrol boat, and also some provisions. So we try to address that. But again, availability of the boat is important, and the competition issue that I just mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you for the response. Minister Zackhras, what about marshals? The crew, the law enforcement officers on the water, their motivations, high or low, and the causes, please.
Thank you, Itio-chan. I brought with me our police commissioner, and may I ask him to come and answer the question, so he can help me with the answer.
Yes, Commissioner George Laui. George Laui, please.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the presentation by Jennifer and my other friends from FSM. RMI is similarities with FSM because we provide money for the officers before they go out sailing. Now, we also did not meet the 100-day sea because our boat, the oldest patrol boat among the Micronesia boats, had been having problem with a lot of defects on the boat. So we had days counted, but didn't reach 100 like Jennifer, you were saying. So, but again, to motivate our officers before they go out sailing, we provide same as FSM is doing. So that's how we do it in RMI. Thank you.
Thank you for the response. And one more thing. What about the sea days when it's low? Maybe low sea days, but more efficient patrols, the approach. Dark vessels, for instance, how to identify them, dark vessel findings. How efficient is your aerial dark vessel identifications working?
Yes, so in terms of dark vessels, we rely on satellite imagery to identify those dark vessels. So we need to have a relationship with providers of that data for Palau. But that data is very expensive. So we've only had experience with several companies that provided that only for a certain period of time. But they were pilot projects, and then we had to fund it ourselves or find somebody else to fund it. So we haven't been able to fund any programs that provide satellite imagery to be able to identify those dark targets. And usually whatever we see through the programs that we have, if they are dark targets, by the time we deploy the patrol boats, they're already gone. So something that we're looking for is sponsorship or funding support to be able to have access to that satellite imagery to identify those dark targets.
ありがとうございました。バカランさん、ミクロネシア連邦について。
Thank you so much. We still need boats to deploy patrol boats in order to check on suspicious vessels, etc. But if you're talking about fishing vessels, we already see them in the vessel monitoring system. And we have the FFA as a partner in that. So vessels are licensed to our system. We'll see them because they are required to turn on their VMS. But there's a deeper issue with respect to non-fishing vessels, because then we need assistance from outside. We receive intelligence information from our partners. I mentioned some of them in my presentation. For example, the Pacific Fusion Center based in Vanuatu is able to provide us with valuable information regarding trends, suspicious vessels perhaps. Our network also through the Interpol could provide us with that information. But again, it goes back to our capability to deploy a patrol vessel to verify these suspicious vessels. So we still need those assets. Of course, I mentioned about AI. Perhaps in the future we can make use of that to make our operation more efficient, and probably the drones that Jennifer mentioned in her presentation. Thank you.
ありがとうございました。じゃあ、
Thank you. What about the marshal? Please. Please.
ダークベッセルの見つけ方。
Dark vessel identification or location approach.
Given and just to let you know that RMI does not have the modern technologies to locate these dark vessels. But at the moment we're building a new maritime security and training center in Majuro. So when that is complete, we'll have all these technologies put into that project, and we will be able to do the same thing that other better off countries are doing at the moment. So, but may I ask one question to Jennifer? Back to your presentation on the aerial surveillance. You mentioned, was it the Cessna? Okay, just for curiosity, how is it funded for you to be able to use that surveillance? Thank you.
Yeah, so the Cessna that we had been using, it was a program provided through 333 Building Partner Capacity Program through the U.S. Department of State. And we had that contract for 3 years. So from 2020 to 2023, we had a Cessna that was based in Palau that we used on a daily basis to provide an aerial picture of our EEZ, and that Cessna communicated directly with our Joint Operations Center.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you. And here we have a special guest from Japan.
さんの、村松さん。
Now we'd like to have Mr. Muramatsu to present about the Japanese company called Terralabo. In February this year, a startup aerial monitoring technology development meeting was held in Hawaii, and we met there. And today he will introduce what sort of technologies are available. But we don't have to commit ourselves to be responding to what he has to say, but he will just introduce us the technologies available out there.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Hideyuki-san. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, I'm Japanese, but I didn't know I can speak Japanese in this presentation. So actually I should speak Japanese more than English, but I'm very sorry to give you my presentation in English. My title is Introduction of Applicable Technologies for EEZ Monitoring. We are Terralabo. We established in 2015. once the big earthquake occurred in Tohoku region in 2011, at that time, especially for the early stage of the recovery and the rescue phase, it was so confused because it is where only rare information has been shared among the first responding agencies. So our company was firstly try to develop the information sharing platform for 2D also and digital twin modeling, including the AI analysis, and create the meta command operational picture. But we faced a little bit a big struggle. It is difficult to get the information more wider, more quicker, in order to deliver those information to the first responding agencies. So then we have developed our own UAVs. I'll talk about it later. So please give me a little time for present our information sharing platforms. This is the information sharing platform named the TerraCloud. It is used for when the big mudslide occurred in Atami City in maybe 2021. At that time, the more than 300 millimeter of the rainfall in 48 hours, and about 70,000 cubic meters of the mud was washed out to the sea. So at that time, 18 police units and 18 firefighting units came to that site. So at that time, it was also so confused in order to share the information among those agencies. And they used this one. And after that, this system has been used for the training for the EMS offshores. And now we developed the 3D digital twin modeling and also the AI analysis system, the target detection and visual detection too. Now, let's go back to the one of the major option. I hope when the geospatial information needs, we tried to use a satellite. But at that time, we faced a problem regarding time resolution, also the land resolution too. And as for the aircraft, that would be better. But when it used for the land survey, it's sometimes difficult to get information due to the cloud. And we use the drone. But the drone actually provides the high dense resolution, land resolution. But unfortunately, it can get only a few areas data. So we named it the Terra Dolphin that has been developed. And please watch the short video. Is it moving? It is now in the final testing, flight testing. It has the UAV VTOL. It contains a VTOL system. So we don't need any runways. And it uses the gasoline engine for the flight mode, and battery electricity is used for VTOL system. And it is reaching about the 1,000 kilometer cruise distance with about 10 hours flight. And it is relatively small. The wingspan is about 4.3 meters. And this UAV can split into almost 10 pieces. And you can carry by the truck to everywhere you want to use. And it can contain the various kinds of the sensors, cameras, lidars, and EO, IL, and others. In order, so after discussion regarding what kind of things you can find out, then we can integrate the system at the head of this UAV. That's it. Actually, this is so difficult because it has two power sources, electric and a gasoline engine. So the transition is sometimes is difficult. So we are now still final testing, and this we pursuing this model will be in the market in next spring. And as I said before, it can provide 1,000 kilometer flight. So it can easily fly over the edge of the EEZ. So it means it can fly onto the edge of the EEZ and patrol around there and coming back. And as for the Japan, this is one of my country's case. Our Japan's EEZ, the area is 12 times of the land. So that is real. So according to the Pacific Islands, about this is reported by the Suzanne's organization. The 23 Pacific Island countries span over the 26 million cubic kilometers. And according to the BBC, it recently reported that the researchers found 3/4 of the world industrial fishing vessels are not publicly tracked. So they maybe switch off the AP, how I say?
API?
AIP か、automatic identification. And as for the, as your guys' presentation, sometimes you were talking about affordable, expensive, right? So this is a very small, light, and easy to handle, easy to carry, and it doesn't need a long way. So it can contribute to the affordable monitoring, the EEZ, in order to find out IUU and the boys, I hope. And now, our UAV is now in final testing and the market in next spring. And after that, we are planning to multi-UAV operation system. So, because it can show that not only the enhancing the capability, but also the presence. Presence could also contribute to safety around that region. And then, multi-UAV operation in every region, then we can solve, we could solve the problems regarding the, for example, satellite image have the time resolution, and when you get information, but that vessels are already gone out. So it can give you the information in real time, and you might be able to scramble there and give them the law enforcement, I think. Okay, so this is the, we are Japanese startups looking for, developing the geospatial information system, but also the UAVs in order to get the affordable, in order to be getting the information affordably. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muramatsu. Any questions from you? Jennifer-san.
So my question is, would you be interested in a pilot project in one of our countries? A pilot project with this?
Yeah, of course, yes. Of course, yes. So it could be a very good chance for not only for us, but also your country to enhance the situation. And also, we can show our capability to other islands countries. That would perfectly attractive for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and it's a great presentation, very informative. I thought that I had to mention AI in my presentation, and now you have the answer. Obviously, these are exciting technologies. These are, we thought that this will provide some solutions to our practical problems. I also noted that when you said that the range that this kind of AUV can cover is really amazing, because in the way we look at our zone, it's not only the EEZ, you see, from edge to edge, it could actually go beyond, because if you think about continental shelf, it can be beyond. As a matter of fact, if we have to be able to cover the entire, say, high sea pocket surrounded by Nauru, FSM, PNG, and Solomon Islands, because that's continental shelf, jointly claimed by those countries. and also on the high sea pocket between PNG and FSM. These are obviously large, vast area of water, and when the process under the UN is successful, this will become part of the national jurisdiction. So it becomes a question on how we are able to actually monitor this seabed area as part of Corner Shelf. And I'm very glad that the presentation about this exciting technology. Thank you.
Thank you very much for giving your comment.
So this is a new opportunity, and if any, since our police commissioner would ask on behalf of us on any question of the new opportunity.
Yes, excuse me. I am interested in presentation. So joining Palau, we would be glad to have you do your pilot project in the same area. So maybe free.
You should talk about it deeply, né? And also ask and have the discussion with Hideki-san too. Yeah, but basically, I'm glad to hear that jointly a POC or some kind of pilot project will be very welcome for us. Thank you very much.
ありがとうございました。
Muramatsu-san, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm very sorry for giving you in bad English. I should have presented in Japanese. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Our sincere appreciation to all the panelists. So perhaps you could talk with Mr. Muramatsu for contacts, addresses, and so on. Thank you very much. This concludes session 3, Maritime Security Law Enforcement in the EEZs. The Honorable Zackhras, Mr. Bacalando, Ms. Anson, Mr. Muramatsu, and Mr. Shiozawa. Thank you very much indeed for your valuable contributions, insights, as well as good moderation. This concludes the day 1 of Pacific Island Nations Weeks. Thank you very much indeed for your staying with us for the whole day. Tomorrow we'll begin at 10 o'clock tomorrow again, starting with sustainable tourism. Thank you very much.